Hey everybody, I'm Emily. I'm one of the designers here at the Quilted Cow, and in this video I am going to show you how to make the Mama Marty's potholders. These are super cute potholders that are fun and easy to make, and I really hope that you enjoy making them with me. First though, let's thank our sponsors. We're sponsored by Husqvarna Viking Machines, Creative Grids, Cutters, Mats, and Rulers, and also Wilmington Prints. Let's get started. So I'm super excited to show you how to make the Mama Marty's potholders, not just because they're named after my mom, but because I really like these potholders. They're really fun and they are easy to make. Now, you are going to be able to get these kits on thequiltedcow.com. Head on over to our website. This is a Helpful Heifer pattern, and because it is a Helpful Heifer, it will have the paper pattern included in the kit, or you can purchase the postcard pattern separately if you wish. So not only will the fabric and the pattern be included in the kit, but you're also going to get the batting. The batting that's going to be included is the insulated batting and the cotton batting that you're going to need to make both of these potholders. So you're going to have everything you need to make two potholders. Let's get started doing that. By the way, there is a pocket in here. That's one of the cool features of it. So you can use it to pick things up, or you can use it as a trivet on your table. All right, let's get started doing this. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut our fabric to size, and the pattern's going to tell you what size to cut it, but we're going to cut our fabric to size, and we're going to have one layer that's going to have both the accent fabric and the main fabric, and then you're going to have insulated batting and cotton batting in between those two fabrics. So you're going to layer it like this. You're going to put your accent fabric down first, you're going to put your cotton batting down next, then your insulated batting, and then your main fabric down. Once you've got that, then you can kind of set that to the side for a moment and go ahead and layer the other one. So the next one is just the accent fabric, right side down, wrong side up, your cotton batting on that wrong side of the fabric, and then your main fabric right side up. So you make sure that the pretty sides of the fabric are facing out on both of these stacks of fabric and batting. All right, so once you have these layered, the next thing you're going to do is go ahead and mark your quilting lines. Now, if you want to mark quilting lines, mark your quilting lines. You don't have to mark them. I just like to do it if I'm doing just like diagonal lines all the way across. If you want to get creative and do a free motion design, do that. You can just randomly do crisscross lines over it. These are round, so it doesn't matter which direction they face, so they can go any way. But if you're going to mark your quilting lines, for this one I'm going to mark on my accent fabric. You can mark on either fabric that you want, but I like to use a chalk marker and mark on my accent fabric. And I'm not even going to worry about 45 degree or anything like that. Like I said, they are round, so they're going to turn. So you can mark straight up and down, or you can mark diagonal. I kind of mark diagonal because you end up feeling like you're sewing less, you're sewing fewer lines. So if you use a chalk marker, just hold your ruler and mark your chalk lines. See if that marked well enough. I can kind of see it. You may not be able to. But mark your chalk lines, or you can use a friction pen. And let's say you want to quilt lines 1 inch apart, then come back with your friction pen and just move your ruler over. This is actually 1.5 inches. Because I've got the 1/2 inch mark. Let me turn that around. I've got the 1/2 inch mark there. All right. So yeah, let's go ahead and do 1.5 inches. I like that size. So then you would come and you would just keep making your marks 1.5 inches apart all the way across. Once you get that finished, grab some basting pins. I like to use the safety pins that are bent. They're basting pins, and pin like 2 or 3 pins in here. That way it keeps all of your layers together whenever you're quilting. Take it over to your sewing machine, quilt on those lines. Once you've quilted on your lines, it's time to cut out your circles. So to cut out your circles, there is a tool that is going to be super duper helpful. And that is called the sliding gauge. It is I think it's the 3-in-1 or 5-in-1 sliding gauge. I can't remember for sure what the name of it is, but there's 2 different sizes. You can get the super large one, and that works for this project. You can get the smaller one, and that works for this one as well. Depends on how big of a circle that you want to make. So I'm going to go ahead and position this. Now, if you're doing an 8-inch circle, you're going to put it on the 4-inch mark. If you're doing a 9-inch circle, you're going to put it on the 4.5-inch mark, because you have to remember that that is all the way across 9 inches or 8 inches, whatever it is. So whenever you go to do your circles, you're going to position this end here on the mark that you need it on. So I've got it on the 4.5-inch mark right here. I am going to just kind of test out, make sure that I'm on the fabric all the way around before I make any marks. That way I know if I need to adjust up or down. So you're going to repeat this. You're going to cut out 2 of the one with only cotton batting, and you're going to cut out 2 of the one with the insulated batting included. That way you're going to have 4 pieces total, 2 for the pockets and 2 for the main part. So once you get those cut out, I do like to come back with scissors and go ahead and cut all the way around them. So once you get those cut out, then it's time to make the pocket shape. So let's make our pocket shape. So I'm going to take one of my circles with cotton batting only. I'm going to take the other circle with the insulated batting, just because it's an extra circle. And I'm going to position one circle on top of the other. Now, to make this a little bit easier to see, go ahead and put your accent side up. That way there's contrast and you can see exactly where it meets. I drew this already, but I'm going to show you how to measure this. And what you're going to do is you're going to measure it 1 3/4 inches from where these meet. Once you get that done, just trace that. Once you get that done, we're just going to cut out this little shape here with the scissors and just get that cut out. Now you're going to repeat this for both of your pocket pieces. So for both of the ones with cotton batting only in them, go ahead and repeat that process. Use the other circle, come down 1 3/4 inches total. You've got this little football shape left over. You can turn that into a coaster if you want, whatever you want to do with it. And then you're going to take some bias binding. Now, I did do a bias binding tutorial already, so you can find that on our website or on our YouTube site. We will provide a link below to that bias binding tutorial that's going to help you out in the process of cutting your bias binding. All right, so that's all stitched down. Now the last thing we need to do to this pocket is just trim off these extra pieces. So grab your scissors and make a quick cut right on the edge of where that pocket is. And you don't want to necessarily cut in, you want to just cut next to where the curve of that is going. Because if you cut in, you're going to cut into the pocket, and that might show whenever you get everything put together. So we don't want that to show. So now I have my pocket finished, and it's all stitched down just the way I wanted it. And then it's time to go ahead and add this to our accent piece. Now, if you want, however you want your quilting lines to show, however you want them to look, will depend on where you put your pocket. So if you've got quilting lines that you're worried about, kind of figure that out now. So we're going to take this and actually stitch all the way around and base stitch that down and get that done. And then I'm going to show you how to make the hanging loop. And I'll be right back. I'm going to go ahead, like I said, base stitch. Make sure you are within that 1/4 inch so you're not going further than your 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I like to usually do about 1/8 inch all the way around and get everything held down nicely. So let me do that. I'll be right back. All right, so I've got that all basted together, and so the next thing I need to do is my hanging loop. Now, the hanging loop, you can leave this off if you don't want it. I just like it, so just in case you want to hang these up or you need to hang up your pot holders, then it's so much easier to do. What I've got is one of our pieces of fabric. Now, this was cut on the straight grain, so go ahead and cut that on the straight grain. It's 2 inches wide, and what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to press it wrong sides together, just like this. And we've done these loops before, or hanging loops before, but we've done this with handles. It's kind of the same process every time. Fold it wrong sides together so that those long edges match. And then fold those long edges, open it back up, and then press those long edges in towards the center so we can enclose all of our raw edges here. Just like this. And then refold it so that all of those raw edges are enclosed inside. And then you're just going to top stitch down both sides of this. So then you have a hanging loop that's got top stitching down both long edges and it's all nice and closed up. Once you get that nice and closed up, I almost forgot to get my iron off of the surface. That would have been dangerous after a few moments. All right, so once you get that all top stitched and ready to go, we're going to figure out where we're going to put this hanging loop. So the easiest way to do that is to grab your pot holder and figure out those corners of the pockets and match those up. Once you've got those matched up, you can find your center right there. And then you can make a mark on it with a little pin if you want, or you can put an actual stick pin through that. I like to just make a little mark at the top edge right there. It's not going to show even if it's not an erasable pin, not going to show. And then grab your hanging loop, and what you're going to do is you're going to put one raw edge to one side of that mark and one raw edge to the other side of that mark. So it's laying next to each other and it's folded over here. So you just want them laying next to each other. If you want to do your hanging loop a little bit different, do it a little bit different, however you like to do it. But I like them flat here underneath the binding so you don't have a lot of bulk to go over whenever you've got your binding, when you put your binding on. So doing them flat here like this is pretty simple. And then I'm just going to base this on, just stitch straight across and get this hanging loop exactly where I want it. So then whenever I put my binding on, I don't have to worry about that flopping around. So let me go base that on and I'll be right back. All right, so when I say based it on, some people think, large stitches or whatever. I just mean stitch within that 1/4 inch seam allowance. So put it on and stitch it down and make sure that you're not going past the 1/4 inch seam allowance. So that's all it is, about 1/8 of an inch is all I did on that. So now it's time to put the binding on this pot holder. Like I said, this is a pretty quick and easy project to do. Goes together really fast. We're going to check this and make sure that I had everything positioned correctly. So it looks like it's all wound up, but whenever you pull on each edge, it's going to actually fold over. And as long as this is a nice flat binding, then you've got it correct. So once you've got that figured out, come back, trim this off 1/4 of an inch-ish. I usually use my scissors and just give it, about a 1/4 of an inch. And then I use my fingers and just finger press this. I don't worry about taking it back over to the iron because whenever I press it all to the other side, it's going to press it nice and flat. But this gets it flat enough while I'm sewing it on. So now I'm going to go through and finish sewing all the way around here and get my binding around this curve right here. So let me get that done and I'll show you what that looks like when I get back. All right, so I have my binding on my pot holder now. And as you can see, it still needs another step or another couple steps. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to press all of this out and around. But because squares do better with this than circles do, go ahead and manually fold the binding to the back side right now. And you can see that curve really wants to tuck under and it wants to be where you want it to be. So it's going to work with you pretty easily on this side of it. So I like to go ahead and have this side and press this side nice and flat. And then I'll go from the other side and press a nice flat area. So now I'm going to be a little bit more particular about exactly where the edge of the binding is. And you'll notice that my hanging loop is hanging down on the pot holder right now. That's okay, that's where it's supposed to be, because we still need to stitch down our binding. But it's pretty simple at this point to give it a good press and make sure that that's going to pretty well stay where you want it to be. Now I am pulling it just a little bit towards the side so it covers this seam, because I want to make sure whenever I sew this down that it does catch all of the edge of that seam. If you're sewing by a machine and you stitch in the ditch from the top side, which is the way I usually do it on these types of projects, I stitch in the ditch from the top side and it will go ahead and it may have just a little bit of a flap on the back side. That's okay to me, I don't mind. You can hand stitch this down if you wanted to. However you want to stitch this other side down, that is up to you. If you like to machine stitch it, but you like to stitch it on the back side and then flip it over and machine stitch from the front, that is up to you as well. It's however you like to do that, but that is basically how you're going to get your bias binding on here. I'm going to take this to the machine later on and I'm going to stitch this down, but I do want to show you the last step is folding that hanging loop up. So once you've got this stitched down, you're going to have a nice stitching line right across here, and all you're going to do is fold this hanging loop right here, and you're going to stitch it right along the edge of that binding. And then if you wanted to, you could also stitch it right above, but I like to keep it stitch in the ditch right there so it's right along the edge of the binding and it catches that hanging loop, so it just makes sure that the hanging loop stays up. All right, so that is how you put together the Mama Marty's potholders. So these are a nice, fun, quick and easy project. I really enjoy putting these together. I hope you enjoy putting them together as well. Don't forget to head on over to our website, grab yourself a kit. The kit is going to include everything that you need to make both of these potholders: the fabric, the battings, both of the battings, insulated and the cotton battings, and it includes the paper pattern along with it. It is a helpful heifer project. So you can get your pattern, your postcard pattern separately as well. Don't forget, if you want to pick that up, grab that as well, but it does include the pattern with it. So I hope you like this video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so that we can keep bringing you videos about projects like these. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.
Okay, you wicked cool quilters, good job. You made it to the end. We would like to thank our sponsors, Husqvarna Viking Sewing Machines, Creative Grids, rulers, rotary cutters, and mats, and Wilmington Prints for the beautiful fabrics. Thanks for watching.